Hi, all. We're just waiting here for Christina to join. It looks like she's connecting now. There we go. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
I just put a little link at the very first comment on your live. If you can click on that, and I think you can make it so that it stays on there. There might be like you see it? Your coupon code?
Yep. Pin comment.
There you go.
There we go.
So good to see you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for doing this with me.
Congratulations.
We'll take days like that every now and then.
Oh my God. Like when I got the news at how well your race went, I was just like giggling and clapping, like, me in my home office, by myself, like, woohoo, Matt.
It's been a bit of a journey, hasn't it?
Oh my gosh. I know. I'm so proud of you.
Thanks.
So what was it like running around a racetrack?
It was a good thing that I got to get on the racetrack a couple times a days before, just because there was so much adrenaline the first time I was on. It was a little easy to get carried away early on, and yeah. So my Wednesday ride might have been a little bit harder than it was supposed to be. So I'm glad I got on and did that a little bit beforehand. Otherwise, I might have got a little too carried away on race day.
I would imagine like the little kid in you would come out and I mean, you don't have to answer this question, but did you kind of
Yes,
make
I was
car
making
noise?
race car sounds. Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, not during the race, but the first time. And then I tried to take the bank wall, and that's like a 30-degree bank. It's intense. Yeah, I couldn't do that on a bike.
That is so funny. Well, I'm so glad, because that's for sure what I would have done if I was running on that racetrack. I mean, even if I just got to take one lap, I would be making all kinds of noises. At least in my own mind. Maybe if people weren't around, I wouldn't be doing
Yeah. They let us do hot laps on Friday, so we were able to get into a car, and they took us around on a couple hot laps, which was a lot of fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how many people competed in this event? Do you know?
There were on the pro race. There were about 50 men, 50 women, give or take one or two. And it was a full weekend. So there was a pro-am on Friday night, which was a charity event. So like a bunch of pros had a team, and so the pros were the swimmer, and then an age grouper could like bid to race on my team and do the bike and the run, and then that money went to a charity.
Okay, cool.
And yeah, and so that was Friday night, and then Saturday was the age group race. So they did a 70.3 on Saturday, and then Sunday morning was the age group sprint triathlon, and then after that the women raced, and then in the afternoon the men raced. It's the first time, well, I guess third time I've ever done an afternoon race, and this is the latest start I've done. So it definitely changed up the morning routine quite a bit.
Well, it seems like it worked well for you.
I got her figured out. It was a little bit of trial and error throughout the couple weeks leading forward, trying to figure out timing of food and breakfast and all that stuff. And like, what do you actually eat a lunch? Usually I get up and just have something 3 hours before the race, go back to bed a bit. And we're starting at like 6 or 7 a.m., not 2 p.m. So it just, changed the whole.
What did you end up doing for your nutrition? How did you manage that?
So I got up at 6, 8 or fairly regular breakfast, which usually on race morning I'm all fluid nutrition. This time I did like an oatmeal and some fruit and a bagel, and then went back to bed for a bit, and then I had my typical kind of fluid breakfast, I guess, at 11 o'clock, so 3 hours before the starting.
Awesome. And then I was like imagining, your level of athleticism is so far above mine. And I was like imagining, okay, like imagining, swimming all of that way, and then biking all of that way, and then getting off the bike and having enough energy to be like passing people, you went from, what was it? Like you were 21st, you said, off of the bike, and then caught up to win the race at second place.
Second,
I
yep.
think it just blows my mind because, like, you know, I'm here, you know, working in my home office, and like by 3 o'clock I'm tired and I want to like take a nap. But to like have done all of that and have experienced all of that, and then to still have it within you to push the way that you did, do you have like, I mean, superpowers, or you know, how does that happen?
Yeah, no, you know, it's always fun to train and to find out how deep you can go and how hard you can push the body. And you know, like I typically am better in the run segment, so I usually get off the bike with some level of confidence. But yeah, I got off the bike and started running and just felt good. And you know, when I can just on a course like that it's completely flat and I can just get into my stride and hold it, and not really, there's a couple tight turns, but I really didn't have to break stride really at all. And I typically run pretty well in that. I'm kind of a flow-based runner, I guess. And so, you know, on courses that I don't have to try to muscle up hills and things like that, I typically do all right. And so, it's just things were going my way at the beginning of the run, and then I was able to just kind of slowly move forward within the race. And it was just super motivating to be able to find the next person and just focus on that next person and not really worry about the end result too much until maybe the last 5K or so.
Well, I guess probably because the terrain is the way that it is and being flat, that there was probably some advantage of you being able to kind of like see everything, you know,
Definitely.
like see where everybody is, and you know, kind of plan your strategy around, you know, what's the next thing to overcome. I would imagine that would.
Yeah, for sure. I ended up coming out of the transition off the bike. Someone had gotten a drafting penalty, and he came out of the penalty tent about 20 seconds in front of me. And it happened to be Vincent Louis, who's probably one of the best runners in ITU right now. And you know, he's definitely was a favorite on the day. And so that really helped me a lot, because I could see that I was making ground on him early on. And so that kind of just gave me the feedback, like, yeah, I'm running with some of the best in the sport right now. And so to just keep on chipping away at that gap first and focus on that first, and then, you know, worry about, the next gap after I finally caught up to him.
So in this particular race, so did you like, what would you say was the biggest challenge, or maybe even like surprise that you didn't anticipate?
No one really knew how the race was going to unfold because of the 20-meter draft rule. So in a typical Ironman race, the draft zone is 12 meters. So that's from your bike to the next bike in front of you. You have to stay outside of that 20-meter draft zone unless you're passing somebody. With this race, it was 20. So you get a benefit at 12. You don't really get a benefit at 20. And so no one really knew how that was going to affect the outcome. And, you know, if people were going to be able to bridge gaps easier, or if it was going to make it really, really hard to pass, or, you know, how much it would affect people's ability to run afterwards. And then I think we saw that that was the biggest surprise, is a lot of people really struggled on the run after kind of having to bike more on their own than they normally would.
Ah, interesting. That is so fascinating. These are all the unintended consequences of COVID, right?
Yeah.
Wow. Like it affects, you know, things that we wouldn't even we wouldn't have thought of.
Well, the draft rule wasn't a COVID thing. That was kind of that style of race. They did it to try to, you know, make it a more fair result, I guess.
I see. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I was just imagining like everything to me is social distancing these
days.
No. Like, it must
no,
be because, you know.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I want to, you know, I didn't really introduce myself. I know we've been, you know, talking and introducing each other a little bit, you know, through our social media posts and everything, you know, but just so everybody knows, I'm a physical therapist, and I am the inventor of the hip hook, which is a tool that Matt has been really helping him in his performance. And I want to talk a little bit about that and hear kind of how that has impacted you in this race in particular. And, you know, Matt and I have become great friends, and, you know, like a big fan of yours, and super excited to be a part of helping you continue to improve, you know, and have this sense of continuous improvement. So I would love if you wouldn't mind sharing just a little bit about, you know, your journey. And I was actually thinking back and I was like, I wonder how Matt figured out that he even had a tight hip flexor, or even that was an issue for you, you know, because that's like a thing that a lot of people are, you know, like, well, do I even have a problem or not? You know, it's a question that a lot of people have in their mind.
Yeah. And I've you know, done a few, you know, for those of you that follow me fairly well, I've done a couple of videos on the hip hook and obviously posted, but I haven't really talked about the story that led me to how I kind of found it. And after using it, why I'm like, I can really be a good partner for you, because this has really helped me out significantly. It wasn't like, you know, it wasn't the other way around where I'm like looking for a partner and then just trying to make up a story afterwards. It was really something like, I was in a tough spot, like with my health, you know, specific to the hip. And I figured out a way to get out of that and was pretty happy about it. So, you know, way back in 2018, when after Ironman Texas, when I ran a 2:34 off the bike, I didn't really respect the amount of damage that did to my body, or the amount of fatigue that I was carrying. And, you know, I took 2 weeks off and thought it was all well and good. But you know, how deep I had to push myself, and how far I had to go into the well, you know, that same recovery period wasn't the same as it would have been, you know, had I, you know, basically that was a 6.5 minute PR on the marathon off the bike for me. So that's a huge, you know, drop, and it took a toll, and I didn't respect that enough. But I was able to get back, and, you know, I was always, you know, biking was good, swimming was fine, but my run just never, you know, always just lagged. And I just felt, you know, I'll be fine, it'll go away, or I can push through it. And, you know, I was just struggling more and more. I couldn't find the top end. Then it was just got to where, like, my aerobic running was going away, or just slowing down. And I just never, you know, with my background as an athletic trainer and background in exercise science, I'm kicking myself now when I think about it, because I just totally, you know, I was a stubborn athlete. I'm like, it's fine, I can deal with this. Yeah, my you know, abs and hip on the right side are always tight. I'll be okay. And I dealt with this for 18 months. And my average run in 2018 and 2017 in the 70.3 was like a 110, 111. And then I was going to like 113 to 115. And then it was like 115. And I just couldn't find, like, my comments to Coach Julie were always, I can't find my stride. I can't find my stride, you know, and I just, you know, and I couldn't open up. Like, I wasn't getting the hip extension that I normally do. And if you've done, you know, watch some of my YouTube videos, or some of the run form analysis on YouTube out there on my run specifically, you can see that, like, when I am running, when my body's moving well and I get full extension, the return, the leg, the hip drive is basically, that's a fascia spring. It's effortless. And when I don't have that, I'm fighting, and then I'm burning a lot more calories and causing a lot of issues. Anyway, so beyond not having the full stride, my hip flexor and iliopsoas area and lateral abdominal got so tight that it was causing lymphatic a blockage in the lymphatic system. And so then I was, you know, basically that was what was leading to all these cramping issues I was having. You know, I was just, you know, wasn't thinking about it, but I'm talking to First Endurance, like, why am I cramping? Like, we're troubleshooting all these things, and it's only on the right side, and that just makes no sense. And I fought with that for a long time. And then I got to the point where a stress fracture came in on the left side, because I altered my gait so much. And then all this stuff that was going on the right side caused my SI joint to totally lock up on the other side. That sidelined me for, you know, 3 months at least. And that was when I started, like, really going back and looking through all my comments and being like, well, nothing's on the left side, it's always on the right. And then,
Hmm.
figuring out what's going on, and, equal and opposite, the left posterior hip, right anterior hip. And so anyway, so yeah, then I finally got my head working and got a good team going on to find what was really going on. And it was all stemming around a right hip flexor issue. And it was specific to the iliacus, because I would get psoas release all the time. But as I've, been brutally reminded of, is that, I certainly knew this, but just, never thought about it enough and applied it to my own self, was that the iliacus and the psoas talk to each other. They communicate because they have a shared insertion. And so if you get one side to relax, but you ignore the other side, then, obviously you've got it's going to get that negative feedback back from the insertion anyways, and just go right back to being tight. And I mean, it was to the point where I would sneeze and start crying. Like, it would bring me to the tears because it hurt so bad near, when I was right before the stress fracture happened. Anyway, I saw a advertisement for this prototype hip hook out there on Instagram, and I think, was it still in your fundraising, or what's the
Pre-sale. Yeah, we were doing
yeah
a pre-sale. Yeah, because I
yeah
believe I sent you one of the prototypes. You had
yes
one of the very first
yeah
prototypes.
I have one that's it's not painted, it's not logoed, but
Yeah.
it was functional. And like, I think I reached out to you like, I need this really bad.
You're
And
like,
this is
help
why.
me, help me.
I sent you a book, we jumped on the call,
Yeah.
and yeah, and you're like, oh yeah, I can fix that. And here we are, back to running happy and healthy, and smiling for weeks after races instead of being pissed off for weeks after races, and wondering what I need to do to fix it.
That's a big transformation. I know, like, for me, hearing your story, and I've been like, having created a product like this that has helped so many people, like, I didn't really know that when I would create this, that this would actually work. I mean, it was my intention it would work, that it would mimic my hands and what I would do in the clinic with people. But to hear your story amongst all the other success stories that we're getting back now that we are actually have the product out into the world, people are using it. They're trying it. We just started shipping the product in July. So now all the feedback is coming in, and, it's exciting. And it also makes me very, very mad that this muscle is not being addressed in so many people. I mean, look at your journey. You probably were like thinking of all these other things, and you thought about the psoas first, and you got work done. Psoas is more commonly work done versus the iliacus. And, you were struggling to the
Yeah.
point, like you said, where, it brought you to tears. This muscle, the iliacus, that you're actually showing, I have a skeleton here for all of you. So this is the front of your body, right? And then this is, if you take out your organs, you have your iliacus here and your psoas, and both of them are very intimately connected. If you work on strengthening or releasing one without the other, it just comes back. It's temporary. And that's what you were experiencing, Matt. This muscle is super accessible. It's right there on the inside of the pelvis, but it's, for some reason, I don't know why, often so ignored. So I'm so glad that you found this, and you identified it. You're like, that's what I need. So that is all great. So tell me, like, so, since you started using the hip hook, obviously we talked about your alignment and, some of the things that were off with your gait. And we talked about how important that hip extension is, that kind of recoil and coil, motion. That's super important for having that power without having to push through it. But like, over the course of like doing this for, I don't know, you've had the tool for maybe 6 months or so. Tell me what your trajectory has been like, and what you've noticed in how you run.
Yeah, I got it. I believe I got it in March. I was one, like, I think you were one of the first. I talked you into one of the first prototypes.
Yep.
that shipped out, and that was right when I was getting back to full training. so I had the stress fracture in September, at the very end of September, right before the World Championships, and then I didn't run a step until New Year's Day, and that was like a 3-minute run, and I felt like it was awesome. So it was really slow. Then I was on the Ultra G, so limited gravity,
Yep.
and but I could still feel like, it wasn't there. Like I'd done a lot of work to get the SI joint moving again,
Mm-hmm.
and I still could feel the hip flexor issues just there. They were way better. Obviously, a long time off of running helped, but I was also sitting around a lot more then, and doing the mobility things that I needed to do. My strength coach really helped me get that side of things going, and this was kind of that missing thing to keep nip this in the butt completely. Like if I would have done missed a day of the couch stretch, I would pay for it the next, and starting March, I started using this regularly, and it wasn't like something that just went away. I needed it once and it was done. Like it's something that I still continue as part of my daily routine. I've done a couple of videos that show like my pre-run routine and things
Yeah,
like that.
that's so
And
helpful.
yeah, and that's something that I'm still doing. And it's not because if I don't do it that day, it's going to come, but it's to make sure that it doesn't ever come back. Right.
Yep.
And so, now can say that 99% of the days that I don't have this contracture. So it'd be kind of foolish of me to stop my routine that nip that in the butt, especially because it's relatively quick and easy, right? And yeah, the first time that I was on it, on the hip hook, it was like, wow, this is intense. And but that's because that area was so upset with me. And now it's like you have that initial 10-second like GTO response, and then it's gone, and it feels quite pleasant. And I know like that it's helping me do what I did a couple weeks ago. So yeah, it's definitely gonna stay a part of that routine for me.
I know that's one of the biggest barriers for people when they first try the hip hook, because it's so tender. It's one thing if like, me as a physical therapist, I put my hands on someone and, it's tender, but at least they can trust me because I'm a practitioner, and they're like, okay, I trust that she knows what she's pressing on. I trust that it's supposed to hurt, But when you're doing something yourself for the very first time, your hip hook arrives at your doorstep and you start laying on it and it's fairly intense. People are, don't necessarily know that that's normal. And most people, their iliacus and their hip flexor has never been touched in their lives, It's like never been touched. So,
Right.
imagine a muscle that's been tight for like decades, and then you go in and you start pressing on it. It's not going to be happy. But I'm the same as you, Matt. For me, like I have done the hip hook enough so that when I do lie on it, it's 10 seconds. It doesn't take long, and I'm like don't feel anything. And I remember those days when I was trying out prototypes when it was really intense. And it doesn't take long to get to that point where it's not. And I think it's really interesting, like how with your story, how like one thing led to another, led to another, led to another. It's a lot of people's trajectory where they end up with some sort of subtle symptom that then leads to another symptom. And then all of a sudden, like your SI joint was something that was further down the line, then compensation with the stress fracture. It's oftentimes something that's a hidden source of problems that you don't really know is there until a couple things down the road have manifested.
Yeah, for sure. The adductors on my right side had pretty much shut off. So like it got to the point, again, and like being an idiot, I didn't think this was a huge red flag, but I couldn't hold a pull buoy between my legs and swim. Every time I would turn, I couldn't squeeze the buoy hard enough without dropping it. And then about a week later, when that got to be the worst, about a week later, on the opposite side is when the stress fracture showed up. And so it was just like this awful chain of events that, every one of them should have been a red flag. And, I'm smart enough that I should have seen it, but I'm stubborn enough that I'm like, oh, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm still running okay. It's just not what it should be, right? I'm getting old. You know what? Maybe that's it. I was hoping that wasn't the case at 35 for 34, 35, but, at some point it's going to happen. So I was like, maybe I just need to be better on the bike now and almost accepting that I was never going to run well again. And then, run the way I used to. Like I was still running okay. And that was kind of it was never a point where it was like an injury. It was just a pain in the ass for lack of a better term. And then I fought it and it became an injury. So it was definitely a lesson in listening to the body.
Yep. That's, I know. The SI joint, I was actually just looking through the reviews that we've gotten. We have like over 150 5-star reviews, which is great. People are sharing their stories and people are sharing like these really amazing, heartfelt experiences. And a lot of them are, there's quite a few that are around the SI joint because, the iliacus is so close to the SI joint. When it's tight, it pulls the pelvis forward and changes the whole mechanics of the leg and also pulls on the SI joint. So I found that super interesting that there were so many people getting relief there. But the other thing that made me kind of laugh was, it reminded me of what you just said, because I asked the question, what do you think is the cause of your tension? And a good percentage of people said it's because they're getting old. I was like, no, that's not a good excuse. That's like the excuse that you give when you don't have any other good reason.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're sitting so much now, that it's just changing. It's not what our bodies were meant to do. It wasn't. So it's definitely changing the way that. It's changing the way that we have to, or how much more we have to be mindful about taking care of things like that. When the hip gets the hip flexor gets tight, it can pull the whole femur forward in the seat of ball or in the socket. Yeah. So the forces are going through differently, and your stack and fit is wrong. And, so it's just there's so many things that. Are stemming from the fact that we're sitting too much even. And, for mine, I think it was definitely a fatigue thing, which is probably one of the lower cases because it's a very slow twitch muscle. It's not going to fatigue, so much, but I definitely think that's what mine was. But it doesn't matter what the root cause was. It's, when that gets irritated, it's not fun.
Not fun. Well, I wanted to just share with everyone, Matt, I really appreciate you telling and sharing, your story, because I think there's a lot of runners out here that, are struggling with various things, maybe knee pain, plantar fasciitis, hip, low back, maybe mechanical things. And maybe it's just purely performance. You really want to improve your stride length so that you can improve your times. But again, I appreciate this story because there are a lot of people that are, novice runners and professional runners that have this issue. And it's because of the repetitive nature. Also because there's a little bit of when something kind of gets tweaked, say you step on something a little bit wrong, that kind of jarring motion is one thing that kind of sends a message to your brain that says, protect this area, and be cautious. And so that can happen. And then that happens to be an area where you're holding tension throughout your life. Right. And I have as Matt mentioned, my book, Tight Hip Twisted Core, I have all the reasons why your hip flexor might be tight and what to do about it in there. So if you're interested in more information, and also Matt and I are going to do a webinar. I'm really excited about that. I love talking to you because you're so smart and
but dumb at the same time.
It's like a mirror, it's like we're we can talk shop, right? But we're going to do a webinar in January, and we do have a link. I have a link that you can register for the webinar up at Aletha Health. So if you go to the link in my bio there, you'll be able to register for that webinar. And we're going to go into more depth around some of these concepts around the hip flexor and how it can improve your performance and also prevent you from being injured. And we'll go into the hip hook a little bit more, and share a little bit more about that and how that's been a big part of Matt's trajectory, and kind of get a little bit geeky into the anatomy and all that.
Hey, Mom, that 8 years of college wasn't wasted.
No. It's great for webinars. And for diagnosing your own body. And
yeah, right.
Right? I was actually going to ask that because, I was thinking about, you having the knowledge that you have and being a professional athlete, that's just such an added advantage, I think, to really understand how the body works in that way.
Yeah, it's helped me develop a really good team. I can, talking with my coaches. I've got Matt Botchwell on the bike, Julie Dibbins on the run and swim, and then Kevin Purvis is the strength stuff. I can really figure out who's going to be a good philosophy, or really quickly what's going to be a philosophy that I can get behind. Mm-hmm. And in the past, it kind of got in my way because I was overanalyzing everything that was going on, and so what it's allowed me to do is pick the people that I trust, and then try to shut that side of the brain off and just focus on my job as an athlete at that point, and that's executing. So I probably got a little bit too into that side of things when I wasn't giving the right feedback back, using the brain to give that feedback back to my coaches because I have the tools. So it's been a constant evolution as an athlete. But it's definitely helpful.
Well, I feel honored that you chose me and the hip hook to trust in this part of your body and this part of your recovery, that you have the level of understanding and that you saw this tool and you saw that it was going to be helpful for you. It's an honor to be chosen.
Well, like I told you, I saw it and I was just looking at the picture. I'm like, that could work. It was just like this aha moment. And then, it's been a great relationship since then. And I'm glad you trusted me enough to partner with me as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So for everyone who is listening, make sure that you sign up for the webinar because you're not going to want to miss that. We also have 2 exciting kind of promo things going on. We've got the 10% off for anyone who's listening. You just use the coupon code for if you want to buy the book, the ball, the hip hook. There's a package right now that's that we'll talk about in a second. But you can get 10% off of that by using Matt Hanson Try, and I have that coupon code pinned here. We also are doing this fun little 12 days of Christmas. So today the hip hook is actually highlighted on Matt's page, which means that if you go to that post and you you tag someone on the post, you like the post, and then you go to Aletha Health and follow us over at Aletha Health, you'll be entered to win a free Fix Your Hip pack, which involves getting the hip hook, which will get at your iliacus, the ball, the hip flexor release ball, which works well for the psoas as well as the back of the hip, and the book, which you can learn all about your hip and what's going on. All that comes together in one pack, and it's a great way to kind of get at the whole package. So make sure to enter in that contest that ends today, right?
It'll end tomorrow. Well, as soon as I post the next one tomorrow, I'll pick the winner for today.
So hurry up.
So I'll announce the winner tomorrow in my stories, and then we'll go from there.
Awesome. And I just, keep reaching out to me if you have any questions. I'm happy to help, as Matt knows. This is what I'm here on this planet to do. So I'm honored when people reach out to me with questions. So thanks, Matt, for doing this.
Thank you. And very, very much the same on my end. I've got a few videos out that are helpful. If you look at the Aletha Help pinned to the top, there's a number of resources there as well. Read through the testimonials. They're not fake. So if it's not just a sales pitch, it actually is doing what it says it does, which is good. So, thanks all for joining.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Yeah, and we'll good luck on winning the drawing. I'll announce that tomorrow, and
Yeah.
until next time.
Hey, Matt,
Yes.
before we go, what do you want for Christmas?
Oh, my my wife and I have not been able to give it away this year, and so we can't wait to just go for a day, 2 days where we can, we're trying to, as soon as the holidays are over and maybe one of the cabins up in the mountains opens up, we might just go up there for a weekend or something and just escape and leave our phones at home and just enjoy. That would be great. How about you?
I want a cozy blanket.
Okay.
I gotta find a cozy blanket that my cat will actually sleep on because he's being really picky.
Oh,
But being at home, I'm really enjoying being at home with everybody. And I've got 7 people in my household. My mom lives with us, 4 kids. So so having a cozy blanket so we could all cuddle up together,
got it.
is all that I need.
Awesome.
But mountains sound good too.
Yeah.
All
Cozy
right.
blanket in the mountains.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
All
Bye.
right. Bye-bye.